to me now. I'm joined by GB News' political correspondent Catherine Forster and also the former Special Advisor to the Home Office, Christopher Howarth. Christopher, welcome to the show. Chris Hope told me about this story earlier. I got very excited because we've had a load of Chagosians in the studio here hoping for some last-minute drama to try and pull the iron out of the fire. Tell us about it. It's complicated. Try and make it simple for me.
Well, the government's bill to surrender the Chagos Islands has passed the Commons because the government has a large majority. But in the House of Lords, it's a different picture. There are a lot of Liberal Democrats, crossbenchers and Conservatives who together potentially could form a majority to block the bill. So what happened yesterday is the Conservative opposition put down an motion to say that the Chagosians should be consulted before anything happens to their islands, because it obviously affects them in a big way. The government thought they might lose this vote, and so they pulled the whole motion, sent it into committee. So it may pass its second reading, but technically it's going nowhere because it's not going into committee. So it'll be in stasis. It's put on the back burner for now, and it's left the government with a problem. What do? Do they come back for a second attempt, which will also be amended, or do they hopefully rethink the entire thing and decide that surrendering British territory and paying for the privilege was actually a bad idea to start with?
This is the Labour Party. They like to give diverse opinions to all. They like to give the right to reply for oppressed minorities, except, it would appear, the Chagosians.
Except for the British Chagosians, who are the ones who've all the way through this process, are the ones who've had a bad deal. It was their islands, and under this deal, they won't be given the right to resettle. They won't necessarily even have the right to this trust fund that's been set up, because that's all been given to Mauritius. So Mauritius can settle Mauritians there. They might give this trust fund to Mauritians. The British Chagosians, they've not been consulted on this, and their nationality and their islands has been given away sort of under their feet.
So to be absolutely clear, what could have happened is that Chagosians could have stood up in the Lords, addressed the Lords, or their statements would be read out. That could have tugged at the heartstrings of a sufficient number of the peers in there. This could have been voted down. That'd be a nightmare scenario for the Labour Party, and so they've short-circuited that whole process. But here's the problem. It's now in the treacle. It could stay in the Lords for how long? Forever?
Well, at the moment, it's going nowhere, because the process is you have a second read, then it goes to committee where you discussed in detail, but they couldn't get the vote to send it to committee. So at the moment, it's stuck. So what does the government do? They've got a court case going on that the Chagosians have brought, and they've got this problem of trying to get a majority in the Lords when the Liberal Democrats voted against it in the Commons. There's the Conservatives, obviously, the crossbenchers who look at matters of principle sort of with great seriousness, and even some Labour peers are kind of nervous about this. So what do? Can they force these people to vote for the surrender of the Chagos Islands and get it through, or it's a problem for them, but it's a problem of their own making?
Catherine Forster, I shouldn't be too jubilant here because, of course, historically, a lot of people like myself who watch it. Final point to you. A great many people would no doubt never have heard of the Chagos Islands before this deal, before the surrender of sovereignty, as some saw it. You've met a lot of them. We've had a lot of them in the studio, and I've been struck by their resolute spirit, by their patriotism, actually, to king and queen and country. Prior to that, great many of them have Miss Lee Mandarin, who came in here, has fought for the British Army, was prepared to die for the British Army. As far as I'm concerned, they're as British as you or I. They deserve to have their say. Do you believe in miracles? Could something spectacular happen here?
Well, anything could happen. The treaty is not in force, and these are British Chagosians. This is a vitally strategic area in the middle of the Indian Ocean. It was kept for a reason. These are British Chagosians, and people may not have heard about it. As it happened, I wrote a book which actually mentioned Chagos before it became famous, but people hadn't heard of it, but that doesn't mean it's vitally important. People hadn't heard of the Falklands War, but they were very keen not to hand it over to Argentina when it came to it. And as for the House of Lords, you raised a very good point. This was not in the Labour Party's manifesto. In fact, the Labour Party's manifesto actually committed them to defending the overseas territories. So it's actually the opposite. They're doing something that was against what they actually promised to do. And in those situations, the Lords, this is really their job. In a situation like that, the Lords really do need to look at it very carefully.
I have a smile on my face, and I wonder if the Chagosians watching this show out there do also have that same smile. Christopher Howard, thank you very much for coming in to see us in the studio today. Pleasure to have your company. Catherine, excellent. I believe you'll be with me. You'll lumber with me until